Hello, welcome to the Q&A and critique number 65. It is now currently 2015 on Friday, and I'm here with Plebes. Thank you, Plebes, for connecting today. I really do appreciate it. So today is a very improvised day because I've been very busy with work. Currently, I've been working a full-time job and missing the mark a little bit, and working a part-time job on top of everything else that I need to do. So that has slowed down my development for Be For Artists, slowed down publicity, slowed down many other things, but I will stick to these events one way or another. So today I'll be giving you a little tour, a walkthrough, I guess, of a layout process by using the asset browser. This process is a concept that we can work when we're working with environments, or working with planning animation or storytelling or level design. So layout is basically where we take people's assets or your own assets and use them in a very quick way, placing them inside of an environment or an area to create a place to be, a place to act, and a place to do different things. This is where we begin. So the background of today's art is one of the shots of the next coming video, which I'm finishing hopefully later today or tomorrow. And I've got a couple of shots. And with that, I've got the asset library ready and things to do. So without further ado, I guess we can begin. So I have a question. Here's a question for you to think about. When it comes to layout, what do you think are the key concepts that you need for layout? Well, I guess we could divide it into three things. So the first thing that we need to think about is usually the elements. What is it made of? The next thing is the purpose. Why do we have this space? Or it's what is its use? What is the use of the space? And after that, we have the method. How are we going to explain that message? Or how are we going to explain that purpose? And then from there, we do the work. So once we understand that, we have those three pillars, which is a nice and easy thing. Elements, the purpose, and the method to start creating our idea. So I'm going to start thinking about some information. So here's a sneak preview of the video that I've been working on. Lately, it has about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shots. I have one more to do. One shot was divided into 3, and another shot was divided into 2 or 3 as well. So it's actually a bit more. But I have one last shot to do, and this is the shot we're going to work on. So as you can see, the grid is empty right here in the bottom right corner. So with this particular shot, I have a neighborhood. So let's think about the elements. So the elements of this particular music video is about the commercial district. So the commercial district is made out of classical buildings, classical architecture, surrounded by modern or futuristic cyberpunk downtown city elements. Hello.
Hello there, we've got Drace, JC, the Spares Flitter, and the Incredible Plebes. What's up, guys?
Hey, I'm kind of drunk. Nice to see you.
Nice to be here.
Cool.
I missed a couple weeks.
Yeah, it's been a while since catching up.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I was just starting, actually. I was giving like a little crash course on layout and my current project here with the Q&A and the next music
so my
video.
singing went live?
It went live, yes.
Okay.
So.
No, I'm embarrassed. Let's go on.
All right, no problem. And how are you, JC? I hope you're fine. So let's just do a quick recap of where we were. So basically I was talking about this particular project I've been doing over the past week and a bit. And I've been working on layout to develop these shots and these frames and then block out some rough animation to tell a short story. I can't say it's incredible, and I need to work the color a bit more. But basically I use 3 core concepts when it comes to layout. I just started earlier. I explained why layout is useful. And that was my cat. And with that, I also explained how you can use it to help you with level design, or help you with environments, or help you with creating your stories, helping you with even with architecture, you can help. So I divide it into 3 things when I think about it. You start with the elements, then you think about the purpose of your environment or your layout or the shot or whatever, and then you think about the method. So we just started to take a look at this particular shot. As you can see with this mood board or color board, I have a couple of shots missing. So I need to think about this particular last shot, which is, if we take a look, I used some AI to develop the shots, which is this one here. It's with 4P07. So I've got some rough ideas, some rough colors thought out, rough concepts and references as an idea that I want to implement inside this particular shot. So let's think about the elements of this particular shot before we start working in 3D. So the elements of this shot is the commercial district with classical architecture, futuristic downtown city. We've got some characters. We've got the robot slave. We have a couple of other cameos. The cameo character who's looking at the robot. And we've got the owner. Her name is Gail. Gail Renix. So Gail Renix, she's kind of an upper class woman, or middle upper class, who thinks she's owns everything, and she has a robot slave. So the purpose of this particular shot is to show the dismal overuse and abuse of the robot. We need to also show that the robot feels alone. And we need to show slavery to some degree. And with that, we need to end on a minimal note. The reason why is because I started with a cup of coffee, a nice, luxurious, relaxing cup of coffee. Everything is idyllic. Everything is fine. But, bam, we go inside this massive place of market where there's a robot that gets lost in the crowd. And the robot is working and doing things, and things are being purchased, and he's like handing over the gifts and stuff. And eventually the things get picked up or delivered or whatever by drone over this really big neighborhood. And then there's a shop with these big white robots and people lining up to purchase them. And while she's waiting there with her cup of coffee and the robot's carrying this big load of stuff, someone notices the robot. So this is the cameo. So we've seen this character before. So the next shot is to show the next robot. So with that, we've got the element and we have a purpose. We have a shot, we have a message, we have a goal. And this goal could be anything. It could be to create a level where characters feel like they need to camp to defend the flag. And if they run out, they need to feel like it's dangerous, and the arena needs to have a sense of vibe where if they run out into the open, it's fair game. So the general pipeline of the game is you have to go up and around the cliffs in order to push forward, because if you camp too much, you will be ambushed from around the back. Something like that. So you need to make a game that's very dynamic, that can shift the power scale inside of your level design. And so your purpose is like, okay, I want people to be afraid to go out forward, but also be surprised and afraid of staying where they're at. So we need to think about that purpose of your layout. So we've got the elements, we've got the purpose, and now we need to think about the method. This is the technical aspect of how to do it. So let's get into the software and let's start. So let me just save this shot. Let me load out my layout scene. Open recent. Get into the layout version number 2. And let's begin. So have you guys, have any of you done any layout before? I know one of you has, and you've done some very amazing work already. That's you, plebes. But what about the rest of you? Have you done layout before, to some degree? Oh, no, I'm kind of drunk. No, wait, I'm not even funny. Killin, how are you doing? Okay. So while the software is loaded, let's do a quick recap. It's basically, we've gone through the elements, we've gone through the purpose, we're going through the method. Just to give you a sneak peek of what the method is, basically what we're going to do is work with scene management just to get our shots, which we have covered here multiple times. Then from there, we're going to go through assets in the asset manager. From there, we're going to link data and we're going to override. So we're also going to tackle some quirks because the asset manager is not finished. It's got some issues. And so we're going to work through those quirks. From there, we're going to work on some basic camera language. So setting up the camera, and then from there, blocking out the idea. And then from there we do the fleshing out of details. And after that, we work on lighting and then setting up the render. And that's about it, really. So this project, these shots can be done very quickly. So let's jump to it. So it's still loading. It's a heavy scene. So with this, some of these shots, for example, I had the purpose. I'm going to get this particular sequence here. So with this sequence, the first key shot of this particular sequence, the purpose was to show the neighborhood and show the drone and show the luxury of shopping around this neighborhood, show the classical architecture mixed with the cyberpunkness, and show the major advertisements in the scale of this district. So there's too much there were too many purposes, so I had to use the environment and different types of cameras and angles to explain different parts of the story. So in this case, I chopped that up into 3 pieces, 3 cameras, and I made a tower that's above everything, high and luxurious, very similar to the towers in Brazil where helicopters land at the top, over like this Baroque neighborhood here, and then I filled it up with like lights to show the world that it's kind of overrun with advertisements. So that was my purpose, and I got the elements. I had a drone that I made nice and quickly out of the paint stuff. I had the character here, I've had the shopping bag here, I had the extras, I had a whole bunch of buildings and like neon signs that I've already created a while ago. I got the city backdrop with the big towers in the background here, and with that I can start working. So now that we're still loading, why is it taking so long? I'm saving up to get a new computer, and the reason is I'm at max memory. Oh, here it is. It's loaded. Let's just see how much video RAM and system memory have I got. VRAM is nearly maxed out, no wonder. So memory's at 1.3, but VRAM's at max. So here's the shot that I have here. And with this particular shot, or the ones previously, you can see that if we look outside the camera, the comparison between game layout or level design and the difference between layout and animation is that when animation, the world is much more forgiving. So with this particular shot, I don't have to actually set up the world to full completion in order to save resources to get more detail into my world. And with that, I can start setting up and planning my cameras. It looks like one of the pieces broke, and this is the reason why you need to be careful with how you link your data from the asset browser. So now we know we have our purpose, the assets and everything. Now we need to start going into the asset browser, and I recommend you create a workspace and save it in your startup blend file, because Blender doesn't have a default asset library layout. But when you do, what I like to do is I create a shader graph onto the side. I usually keep it collapsed, a 3D viewport, an asset library browser, which is underneath the file browser. And I usually have an outliner in the view layer with the collections, and I have another outliner inside the Blender file view. The reason being is that when I am in the Blender file view, it makes it much easier to mark your assets. For example, you can see all of your node groups, and you can see all of your materials used in the scene. And with that, it is much easier to right click and mark everything, all of your collections in the whole entire project, and know which ones are marked and which ones are not. And you can filter them too, which is nice and easy. So I have a Blender file view to help me mark my assets, and then I have my asset browser. And then from there, if you're inside of BF Artist, you can access your asset library paths directly from the edit path. But if you're inside Blender, you go to your user preferences, go to your file paths, and there you would see your paths down here. Once you have that sorted in the asset library, save your user settings, and you'll be able to drop down and select your path. So, scene management. That's weird. Where's my toolbar? Here you go. Okay, so in there, if we switch over to scenes, I have already separated my scenes like we do here on the left with the scene view of the outliner. I already have a scene called 47, which is an empty scene with a number of, I have some global settings, which would be the camera and the sunlight as a reference. So what I'm going to do is, first things first, is I'm going to jump into the camera in my animation view. And I'm going to just get my timeline correct. And I also have to make sure that my frame rate is correct, because I'm animating at 15 frames a second. First things I usually do is I set up my cameras. If you're inside a game level design and you're doing layout there, typically you would have some kind of proxy approximation of a player and a camera that you can work with the mechanics that the basic mechanics that you need. Once you have that sorted, you can run around your level and kind of get a general grasp of what you need to do. So now that I have my shot sorted here, I'm going to cue this frame here, the start frame. I'm going to cue the end frame, which is going to be a few seconds long, but not too long. I don't actually know how long it should be. Let's just double check. So I go to my animatic. One second. Here we go. So I'm in the animatic. This particular shot is about, here it is. Duration is 715 frames, divided into 2 is 307 or 8. So let's go back to that particular shot. 308, so 3607 plus 320, more or less. Let's just go over. Plus 330, so there we go, frames. That's my frame duration. So we're in our asset layout, and as you can see, I already have my library set up with categories. And when I have categories, or these tags, set up by this new catalog asset, whenever you mark an asset, it goes into the unassigned tab. And in this case, this unassigned asset would have to be placed inside of the category or tagged with that particular catalog, so that you can use search for things a little bit quicker. Because if I showed all, you can see that the libraries are very big, which would take too much time to look for things. And sometimes I might not remember all the names. So for example, building. I don't remember the name of all the buildings, so in this case I'm going to have to filter. And with this, I also filtered by the commercial district. So let's make these thumbnails extra big. So here I am. The commercial building number 5 is the one that bugged earlier. So I'll have to fix that later. But with that, now I have some buildings, and the purpose of this shot is to make the robot feel like he's alone in the world as a slave. So I need this big, dark commercial building. So before you start adding things into your scene, obviously you need to be organized, is make a new collection. I'm just going to call this SO4P07. And in this particular shot, I'm going to create another sub-collection. I'm going to call this the set. I'm going to make another one. I'm going to call this the light. And then I have some visual effects for the Painterly project, which I'm going to call volume. And after that, I'm going to have some key things that I'm going to animate, and I'm going to call this anim. So inside the set, which I'm going to label blue, I'm going to add in this commercial building. So you have 3 options: link, append, and append reuse data. But in reality, you actually have 4 options. The 4th option is underneath link, because when you link something, you have 2 options when you're using collection data. The first one is a collection instance, and the second one is a collection linked collection. So let's see which version I've got. Unfortunately, I'm really planning to change this inside Beefritis if I can. There's no way to know how you're going to link your data until you link it when it comes to collections. So that's an oversight from Blender, but let's take a look. So let me just see, my camera's painting facing down, so I probably should like set up my camera to some degree. So if I take a look at my references that I used AI to do, there's one particular shot that I really liked, which was this guy walking away from the camera, carrying this big thing on his back. Another shot that's very familiar to that is this guy here, a box with legs, or this particular shot of a robot in silhouette with the light behind him. That particular shot I like a lot, especially with the readability of those colors, especially the character in dark, everything else is in light. So let's work that. So I'm going to do a symmetrical shot or a semi-symmetrical shot to do that, and I'm going to link in the data. The reason why I choose linking with layout is mainly because if I want to edit this file and I want to reuse this file, I would like to do it in the original source, so that when I load up a new future layout, these sources will be updated automatically. And also, I want the file to be smaller. A layout file should not be larger than 100 megabytes no matter how many things you link into it, because when you link something, it references the original blend file and not the actual data inside the file, which means it's less work on your hard drive if you use your original source files from elsewhere. So let's link in this file, and lo and behold, if we take a look at the F6 menu or the repeat last menu, we have this little option called instance. This is the one we want. If you don't use the instance and you hit you turn it off after you've added it, this will create a linked collection. So the linked collection, because I've already used this building, makes it disappear, which is not what I wanted. So if I have the collection already linked in another scene in the same blend file, it will not add it to this scene. That's a bug. So when you can, use an instance, or when you're in a clean scene, great, add it to your library scene and then reference that same library scene from the library and use that instead. Another quirk for the asset browser. Thanks, Blender. So from there, we've got this layout, this thing here as an instance. You can see that you can't access any of the data, but I don't have to override anything and I can move it around. Great. This is why when you work with layout, it is best to save your assets as collections and work your custom thumbnails on your collection, because working with collections and instances is so much more performant and easier to work with than anything else, unless you need to edit the data. In this case, you'll need to use the linked scene collection instead of the instance collection to override. So now we have this. Let's grab another shop. This one here, let's link it in. The scale of this building is way off, so let's make it smaller. What other dark looking buildings have we got? I'll grab this one, this garage one. This one here looks pretty cool. And we're good. So now we got these buildings. What else? We need some concrete. So let's grab some concrete from my city pack. So I got street fronts. I've got street decor. Got a lot of trash. So trash is going to be really cool. So let's grab some trash. Let's grab this fire hydrant. That looks pretty nice. The street sign. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Let's get this scaffolding thing, which looks really weird and interesting. And we need some concrete. So we'll grab this tarmac and a street. Cool. So we got everything we need inside the collections here. And now it's time to set up the shot. So let's just move this out of the way. And we'll get inside the camera. Oh, we are in the camera. And take a look at this particular shot. Oh, so we've added up the elements of the environment. What about characters? Well, if we need a character, in this case, this is where you need to think about when you're linking your data. When you have a character, you cannot override a collection instance. So you're going to need to think about overriding not just the collection, but also overriding the actual scene collection. So this means we have to link in the collection with the rig and change that little toggle that says instance so that we have the scene collection linked into the actual project. So once we do that, we click on instance, and now we have an actual collection which has these arrows or this little icon that says the data is linked. The problem is, linked data, you can't edit linked data. You can't move it. You can't use it. When you have this, when you have object data inside your collections like this, where it has a little object icon, this means this is an object container, and if you link it, you cannot edit it until you override it. So you need to think about whenever you have a scene collection or a mesh that you want to use and you want it to be still connected to your original file, then you need to override it. So to do that, you just right click on the collection and you click on make library override, and if you want overrides on everything, just click on selected and content. And once that is done, it creates some overrides onto your character, which means I can now select the rig, go into pose mode, and I can start working. Something strange on his arm. That's weird. Let me just confirm why his arm's like that. So back to this. Oh, I think I know why. I must have moved this by accident. So that's the grease pencil object, which I've attached to the actual robot pieces. I should probably lock them in the rig in the future, so they don't move.
Hey Dre's, I've got a workflow question.
Yes.
When you're doing a character, for instance, and you need multiple poses, how's your approach to that? Like, you create different armatures, or how would you solve this problem?
How would I store poses?
Yeah, for instance, I want a character drinking coffee, and then I want the same character sitting down, messing with the newspaper. So how do you store this different poses?
Okay.
Okay.
With one of my characters, so let's grab one of the characters that I need, which is Gail Renix, the girl that's in the red dress. But she has a bad thumbnail at the moment. Here she is. The default Blender thumbnails, they're terrible. Anyway, so I'm going to link this character. She has animations that it's already stored. Hang on. Oh, I have to be in object mode. So link. And now she's linked into the scene. And then I'm going to override. Done. It would be very nice if this had a button, like buttons that you could pick and choose. For example, like this here. So you can like choose these buttons and change the view nice and quickly. It would be cool if this was that. I may have to think if that's possible in the future. But once we have this character linked, she's created from a Mixamo rig. So a Mixamo rig has a bunch of library animations that I can use from the internet for free from Adobe, from motion captured data. So she's going to have to be a walking character. So Mixamo has an add-on which you can use with their Mixamo rigs. She has a control rig that has been generated. So this means the default rig is not going to work by itself, but you can add an animation to her. So in this case, I have I'm going to have a generic animation library here. So I usually, when I have this, you can have, there are two ways of storing things for your rig. The first way is storing a pose, an animation pose. So if we go into the animation editor, and we go into the action editor of the dope sheet, we have the option of creating an animation clip, and we can call this clip pose number 1. So this pose number 1 is going to be just basically one pose. So let's say one keyframe. So if I raise her arm like this, this is going to be slow from here we go. So if we raise her arm and then hit a keyframe, this would be called an action clip called pose. So if we go inside our blend file view, underneath actions, we can take a look and find the one that says pose. So this action here, this can be stored as an asset. And when this is stored as an asset, if we go inside here and we go inside the user library, oh, I got a filter on. So where is it? Oh, actions. Here it is. Why isn't it showing up? That's strange. Well, technically you should be able to see it. Why isn't it stored? Oh, maybe this is an experimental feature. No, it's on.
Oh, just because it's my question doesn't work. I get it. I get it.
Yeah, that happens. Mark as asset. Maybe it's because... that's weird. Oh, that's because I have a filter on. Well, that was silly. Okay, so now that I have this pose here, you can technically use it on your rig. So let's reset her pose. And you have to be in pose mode. So once you're inside your hair on your rig, you could select it into pose mode, and then you can apply the pose that you just saved. The problem is, alright, so you can have a whole library with some keyframes and stuff that you can use from the camera. So let me just make a better camera. So for example, it's going to be using your active scene camera. You can refresh your thumbnail and you can create this pose. So this pose has, if you're inside your view and you reset your view, if you reset your view again here, you can do an interactive blend, which means it creates like a widget inside. As you can see in the center of the asset browser, you can tell how much % of this pose do you want of that particular bone. You can do all the bones or just that bone. You can
That's inside the MOAD, right?
This is inside the pose library asset browser. You can also flip the pose. So we can apply.
This pose library is in Blender by default?
The asset library, yes, this is built inside Blender right now.
Oh.
So you just need to create an action clip, one keyframe, and mark the action clip as an asset. Obviously, you should probably organize it with the character tags, the mood of the character, and you can create, this is what replaces what was traditionally inside the asset here, a legacy pose library. And as you can see in the notice of 3.4, this panel is a remainder of the old pose library. This was replaced by the asset browser. This panel will be removed with version 3.3. I'm currently using 3.4. They still haven't removed it. So here we go. You create an action clip, record one keyframe, and you're good to go. It makes a blend. The next option is, if you want, you can do the same process, but you can store actual animations. So for example, I need an animation. So why is this? Let's go to the toolbar. I need to append an animation that I stored in my library. So I go to my library, I go to my characters, I have an animation for my crowd, which is some generic animations. I take a look at the actions folder, and inside the actions folder I have some files. So what I need is a walk single. I don't know if it's a woman or not, but it doesn't matter. I hit append. So now that it's done, I can, or I can also, in this case, if I'm using the add-on, which is a bit more confusing, sorry for deviating, but I can add a mesh, collection. Don't worry. So I just appended the animation, and now that when I go here, I can choose the walk onto the rig. And with this particular rig, fortunately it's a walk single. Apparently it doesn't have animation. Okay, I chose the wrong one. But if you're using the add-on, you would select, you import the rig with an animation. So let me just do that in another scene, because I need to do it anyway. So the first step is I need to create the armature with the rig, which is an FBX from Mixamo, which doesn't have any skin or anything. It just stores the animation clip and the actual the animation clip and the rig. And with that, you append that animation with the rig inside the scene. You use the Mixamo add-on from the Mixamo website for Blender, and then you attach that animation to the control rig. Or you don't generate a control rig with the add-on, and you just use the bare bones rig that Mixamo generates on your rigs. It's going to take a while to load because I'm already at maximum RAM. But basically, in this case, I'll just use like a basic 4 keyframe animation, maybe for the walk cycle, or not even use a walk cycle, just kind of like have a still shot and work from there. So now that we have that, I'm going to start adding in the buildings, scale everything to an actual size that's more logical. Move this building over here. Let's go inside here. And here's the big... Ah, it crashed. No, wait, it didn't crash. Ah, cool. So let's open up my crowd scene. Characters, crowd. So as you can see, the asset browser has some benefits where it's easier to drag and drop your things, but sometimes it's still a lot of work to get your linked characters in, or to override your collections. Also, you need to realize that is an interesting bug that if you link a scene collection and then you do something different and you try to go back, the scene collection will be placed where the cursor was placed, so that when you make an instance, it's going to be changed. Here we go. These are my rigs. And these are not the animations. So animation crowd. Here they are. Alright, so let's just make sure they're all good. So we want an animation walking on the phone. Actually, that might be a good idea. Let's take a look at this one. Return. Now we just want it forward. Walk, start, stop, walk. Single. Oh, walk single is just a single frame. So I think we want this one. Walk, start. This one walking in a circle. On the phone. But it turns around and goes back again. But I think it's long enough to be used, so we use this walking on the phone return. So now this is the default Mixamo rig library, which is just a bunch of rigs which has an animation clip. So if we go to the animation editor, you've got this library of animations either from Mixamo or things you've animated, and you create the animation clips inside here, the action editor, and you've named your actions with the correct names that you need. All organized and clean. You've maybe the problem is you can't store these inside the asset library. You can't access them. You can only use it as a pose. You can't drag and drop, unfortunately, or not that I know of. Hopefully in the future you can. But in the future you can store your animations as an animation clip, and then from there you link and append them to where you need them. So if we go back to the scene, which is here. Where is she? Here she is. And so I'll move her in. Here she is. Alright, so now that we want an animation, so in this case I'm going to have to... Why does this hide all the time? So weird. Okay, so I'm going to append the animation, and this was called walking on the phone. Walk, start walking on phone. I'm going to append it. Wait, I should have appended the rig. So let's append, let's go up, go find an object. Let's find the walking on the phone. Walking on the briefcase, walking on the phone, return. Walking on phone, return, append. So now that we have this animation ready, I go to my Mixamo add-on, And let's just make this bigger. I get the source skeleton, so we'll use the one called walking on phone return. And we apply the animation to the control rig. And crash. Why? Oh, that's because it's already got her. Try again. And unable to execute. Toggle edit mode. Okay, they need to update their ad and doesn't work in 3.4. Bummer. Anyway, as a layout artist inside Blender, this is going to be the hardest, the thing you need to think about when it comes to all these problems. The problem with the control rig is that my internal rig with the actual armature doesn't actually work.
Si quieres yo le mando la dirección o algo.
Yeah, that's a shame. So that means I can't use this animation yet unless I make another rig without the control rig. Oh well. So I guess we'll just focus on blocking for now and we'll do manual animation later. There you go. So she's going to be walking up in front. I'm going to use this this road thing over here. I'm going to get back into the camera. I'm going to go hide the grease pencil because it's nice and slow. Yeah, it's a bit faster. And we're going to set up this camera here. I'll just make it look better with the attributes. I should also need to lock my camera so I can actually edit the camera here. Let's pick a lens. So in this case you need to think about your perspective. So I want to make him feel very small. So because I want to make them very small, I'm going to use a 20mm or a 28mm lens. Oh, kind of like the 21 actually, to kind of make the architecture feel really big. So here he is, and let's just focus onto him and make him look really small based on the world that he's in. So because I want to make him feel small, I'm going to aim the camera down like this a little bit. And then there he is. So because the streets are so wide, maybe it'll make him feel smallish. So with that, I need to bring in the buildings a bit more. So I'm going to use this building here. I'm going to use this one over here. Nice and big. Kind of frame him inside the light here. Maybe like this as well. And maybe I'll put some buildings far away in the background there as well, like he's going nowhere, maybe to like a garage, which I see here. Bring this out over here. I got this street over the side here, maybe I'll make it a bit bigger, more to scale. This building in the background I actually don't like there, so I'll bring it to the side like this. I'll bring it up like this. I got the scaffolding thing just to show that he's kind of like going down a junk street or something like this. And maybe I will actually put him more into the light by giving him more sky. I was planning a higher shot, but maybe like the more of a perspective lines. As you can see, the top here, the lines, whoa, the lines point to him from the side, from here. It's all focusing on him, and then she can walk up ahead a little bit more. So let's move her up. And I'm using the leading lines of my environment that I just roughly created to kind of bring him out. And maybe in the background here I can add a couple more things as well. So on my set, go to my assets. Let's go to my library, props, commercial district. And this time I'm going to use some of these buildings here. So I'm going to grab this commercial street building, link as an instance. I hope it works this time. It didn't. So here's another tip. If your instance is linked as a collection and you want it to be an instance, make sure it goes to 0 in the world, in the location, and then toggle to instance. The reason why, if you place it into the world at an offset and then make it an instance, your instance offset will reflect that, and that's a really big problem. So let's go back inside the view. So now we've got some detail buildings over here in the background, which I can use either in a really big sense like this, and I'll just duplicate it. Use the other side over here like this to kind of bring out that vibe a bit better. Or maybe I actually have the buildings way up here, or down here and up here. Rotate it around a little bit to show the immensity of the world. So the good thing about animation is that if I'm not moving the camera a lot, I can do a lot of cheating and a lot of hacks to make my work feel bigger or different. So here we go, got these big buildings here. There we go. So now the world feels a lot more detail. So you remember this was the original block out that we needed to get the ideas. So now we need to think about the concept of actually working on the other details of these things. So we've got linking data, we've done overrides, we worked through scene management, we set up the camera, we blocked out the general idea. So now we're working on fleshing out the details. But as you know, it seems like my time is running low, but let's just get some general details and start the lighting. So we had a trash can. We'll make it a bit bigger, maybe make them 2, make it kind of interesting. Rotate the other one. Use this over here. A fire hydrant as another little detail. Bring it up. And then we use this trash bag, or we'll just throw the trash bag inside of, maybe grab another one inside the shop here to show that it's going down like a trashy part of the city. We've got this banister thing, container, which I'm going to use and rotate around like this. Put it over here. And we've got some more details. We're looking fine. Looks okay. Great. So this little shop here I don't actually need anymore. So I'll delete it. Oh, we've got a sign. I'll use the sign here. Yeah, perfect. To play something quickly, using the cursor, you can use your pie menu to set selection to cursor, and you just place your cursor and then snap to it. It's a very fast way of moving something, which I actually start to miss when I use any other 3D software, because most software don't have actual 3D cursors. So let's just make sure my leading edges are perfectly fine. And now I'm ready for lighting. So in my lighting, I usually use a consistent world lighting of some kind, and I'll just switch over to rendered mode. Inside Eevee, or if you're in Cycles, it's good to switch to clay render by using a view material override, which will be down here. If you're inside Eevee, this is not possible, but there is an add-on that does it. I haven't tried it though. But once you do that, it usually, for example, my painterly effect or like multiple materials and things sometimes slows things down. So when you do your lighting, you need to think about your shape language and how you want the light to work. So I'm going to just, it's going to take a while as it compiles the shaders.
Did you ever use negative lighting?
I haven't, no. I usually start in dark light. In this case, I'm using a sunlight as a lamp. So I add a light to my scene with intention from the darkness. So I'm going to just copy this light and move it to the lighting collection and then hide the global sunlight. So I use the same sunlight from before, but now I can control it. Whoa. Where'd my flora go? Ah, I know. It's still compiling. It's going to take a while. So let's just recap. So for layout, I consider my elements. What things do I have to work with? Then I consider my purpose. What do I need to set up in this particular shot? And what type of message do I want to say? And then I think about the method. And I talk about, okay, so I need to work my scene management, work through the asset library, set up my cameras, block out my ideas, flesh out the details, and then focus on lighting and setting up the composition and render. So as you can see, my silhouette is not very good yet. If I rotate the sun, I want him to be in the shadow, but I want everything else to be in the light. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a cube. Like this. And I'm going to use this cube as like a thing that's going to block him in the light. So in this case, maybe it would be cool to use a negative light in this particular case. So there we go, here we go, he's in the shadow here of a particular building or something. Another thing I want to do is I want to add more light to the background here. So I could use, I've been using these green lamps as kind of or orange lamps to kind of light up the world a bit more in different areas. So I'm going to use the green lamp from a light, for example, that might be coming up from the edge of the street here. So I'm going to use this behind the robot to bring out the light, the greenish blue light, to bring it out what I need him to be. So 5,000 watts, and it's maybe a bit too strong, but you can start to see, you can read his colors a bit better. I'm also going to pull this building that I have here, going to give him more space, because right now I don't see his shape very well. So I need to pull it to the side here, like this. And maybe even this building here in the back, or this one, and this one, and this one. Just pull it back a little bit, so that his shape is not so obscured by the world. Maybe even pull this back a bit, pull the one below, this one, and actually I'll make it longer. Yeah, that's a bit better. So now I can see him a bit better than I did before, because I'm starting to work the lighting and the composition to get some good contrast before I even think about the actual compositions and the lights and things like that. If I have a clear vision in mind of the purpose that I need to do, where I need to make him like cut out in the silhouette, make him feel small. So maybe I'll bring the camera out a bit more, so he's actually very small, maybe a third of the size of what he used to be. and then I can like bring back the decorations a little bit so that he's no longer fighting for attention as much. So now that's a bit more clear. So now that I have that a bit better, I can now focus on the animation and focus on finishing up the lighting, the shaders, whatever I need, and we're good to go. So I just need to find out why it's not rendering. Oh, that's because it's still compiling. So, kind of drunk. Does this answer your question? I mean, I know I went down a rabbit hole concerning the layout. But just a summary of your question, to say store poses for your rigs, you can use the asset library, which stores an animation clip with a single keyframe. Then you can use that to blend between different poses and expressions and things like that. To do that, you just pose your rig, hit record, whole rig or whole armature, and you're good to go. Or just the particular bones that you need. For example, rig the mouth. In this case, you don't want to blend the whole rig, you just want to rig the mouth. So you pose the mouth, and then you're good to go. The second option is you create an organized library of action clips with different animations that you can use in the NLA or load them up into your dope sheet and work them so that you actually have an actual library of action clips. And then you have different methods of applying them, either using add-ons or using them for linking or appending your data, or you can even build it inside an action clip constraint on your particular bones, which I have done on my rigs, but that's a bit more of an advanced topic for another day. Man, it's taking ages to compile. That's weird. I wonder if it's because I am streaming.
The RAM is screaming.
Yeah, my computer's screaming. With this new full-time job that I have, I hope to buy a new computer within the next couple of months. I hope, but I need to keep working at it very hard. It's like 50, 60 hours a week of work. So I'm very tired today.
What computer are you running right now, and what sort of upgrades are you hoping to get?
I'm currently running a fourth generation i7 at 3.4 gigahertz, which has been a very good CPU. I have 16 gigs of RAM, but it's running at 1300 megahertz. So it's a very slow RAM, and it's only 16 gigs. And I have a GPU 1060 with 6 gigs of VRAM. So my computer... Say that again?
Which part are you most excited to upgrade?
The whole thing. I'm buying a new tower, I'm buying a new motherboard, a new chip, a new everything, new PSU. I'm going to use this computer as a render machine, and that's it. And also my benchmark machine for games and like assets and stuff. If it runs on this computer, it will run for everyone, because I haven't upgraded this machine in 10 years. And the graphics card I didn't upgrade in 5 years. So I'm due for an upgrade.
Are you hoping to be more of like a CPU based or GPU based 3D machine?
Usually GPU, but I need a lot of RAM as well. I'm finding RAM is a big cap with many things. So I'm probably going to stuff my machine with so much RAM I won't know what to do with it.
What would you say is a good minimum for RAM?
128 for me. If I can. If not, 64 is fine.
I wish I had that much.
I've been working at work with a computer remote access with 64 gigs of RAM, and it is glorious. The computer, like the software becomes more stable. Things load up nice and quickly because it's the next gen of RAM. So if I can get RAM that's running at 2600 megahertz or something like that, or 2900 megahertz, I'm not sure what the fastest is, which I think only comes up to 64 gigs of RAM, not sure, but the clock speed of that RAM is very good, very fast. So that's something I would like.
Oh, it's gonna feel like night and day.
Yeah, definitely. I can't wait. So I'm just working really hard to get that by the end of the year, which would make these streamings a bit more nicer, I suppose. Alright, so there's my scene. Maybe I need to get some better lights, sky. So yeah, well, thanks for your patience with the stream and all of this, but basically now that I have the shot ready with the layout, I have my intention, I got the leading lines, making them feel dark, but the rest of the world is more in the light. Maybe I can start filling in more different colors, changing the color of the world, the background. I gotta fill in the paint of the background with a sky color. I need to fix the ground a bit so it doesn't fade out so much. And yeah, so that's the general process of layout. Is you have your asset library, you have your elements, you have your purpose, and then you work through the method to get your general intention of your scene. Hope that helps. All right. I have a question for you guys. What would you like me to take a look at next week?
Art review.
Yes, it's been a long time. Do you have art to take a look at for next week?
I have one piece that I liked it. It's like I'm attempting to do characters because remember my friend Julio?
Yes.
He came up with a challenge that we make one character for per week during Halloween, and I made I'm gonna send you in the forgot how to speak. I'm gonna send you.
Great.
But basically a character, and I'm making another.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be pretty cool. I could probably also put a piece together to criticize.
That would be really nice. I remember when we started doing these Q&As in the first season, we did a lot of art review, and that was generally the foundation of these Q&As. It was really fun. So yes, let's do that.
Maybe I'll pull up an old piece.
Oh, I'm excited. Art review. Great idea. Thank you. Oh, I can't wait to get a new computer. It's amazing I've been getting through this without it. Though I have I'm not sure what GPU to buy though.
Get the 40 series, NVIDIA 4090 Ti.
Are they even available?
Powerful, they had to recall it.
It was so powerful they had to recall it. It's like, this shouldn't be in the world.
Yeah.
Pull the plug.
I'd probably say do NVIDIA. Like, I'm using AMD, and I don't know. I feel like it leaves some to be desired GPU-wise.
Yeah, I used to have AMD, but then I got the 1060 and it was day and night as well. And it has never let me down. Never. With AMD it always did. But that was many years ago.
I got my GPU just before the crash. I'm already sick of it.
So I guess you're saving up for a new one, I suppose?
Sorta. I do need to put more RAM in my computer.
Oh, it's looking
just
pretty
like
awesome.
the GPUs At least like one that I'd want to like run professional work on. They're fucking expensive.
Yeah, they are.
It hurts to look at.
Don't you guys have alternative brands? For instance, my RTX is not made from NVIDIA. It's a GeForce. GeForce, no. I don't remember the
MSI?
brand. Gigabyte.
All right, yeah. I like my GPUs from MSI. That brand hasn't let me down.
I just
The
haven't found.
fan never breaks. The MSI, literally, I have a friend that even dropped his GPU once, and it still worked with the fan.
Yeah, my motherboard has got titanium caps on a lot of its components, and it has literally lasted me more than 12 years. Literally 12 years. I bought it secondhand, and it had already been new for 2 years at that point, and that was 10 years ago. My motherboard it doesn't even have USB-C. Like, it doesn't exist. It barely has USB 3. Like, it just came out.
I grabbed a Founders Edition card because it matched my color scheme,
Oh, nice.
which is black. Everybody was doing RGB or putting crazy colors on it, or just all these trim settings. It's just like, no, I just need it to just be deathed out. That's all I need.
Yeah, I started doing window shopping the other day, and I was blown away by how much LEDs are on everything, because the last time I went shopping, which was, as you know, none of that existed either. I was like, wow, look at all these colors.
Now.
Huh?
It's on everything now.
Yeah.
It's too much. I don't like it.
There must be like a power draw to that as well, no?
Not much. It's pretty minimal because they're LEDs. They don't really take anything. But
All right.
it is a little more than what it would otherwise be.
For me, it's dangerous because my GPU sits on. I've got an eGPU, so it's like outside of the computer. And nowadays, since it's hot, we've got a lot of fireflies, you know. And I'm scared that one of them might go inside of my card.
Like an actual firefly bug?
Sorry?
A firefly bug?
Yeah. The kind of wasp. I don't know how to say it in English.
Wait, so you built your own external PC setup with GPUs, or are you using some sort of service?
No. I built it up.
Whoa. Nice.
Wow.
Let me see if I showed you guys before. I showed you.
Yeah,
Grace.
a while ago. Yeah, I remember. You had like it's like a 2070?
A 2060. Let
2060.
me see. Here's a picture.
How many fans did you guys go with for your GPUs?
My current one has 3.
Nice.
That's
I almost got a 2-fanner, but I got really nervous thinking to myself, if I'm using this for 3D, that's probably not enough.
Wow, it is kind of bright. You guys tell me. No, flashlight. Oh, sorry, I'll take it again.
Oh, Shmuel, you do have a good point. Blender supports NVIDIA a lot more. You're right. I agree.
What am I
Well,
looking
look at those lights. It looks like headlights.
It's a little strong.
What is going on? Is that your RGB fan?
Yes,
But
but
they're
I
white.
can't turn it off.
You can't turn it off. Goddamn.
And it's right next to my bed, so when I try to sleep rendering something, it's like I've got a car parked near me.
Oh, man.
That's not very user.
I honestly do not really like RGBs. When I go to sleep, I'd like to have the darkest possible. So if I find any little thing, I turn it off. I tape it. I go around the room. I can't deal with RGBs. I don't know.
You tape
Maybe the day, but
it on your
like if no, it's like there's a light sometimes on the outside of a laptop or something that's like one little dot. Like cover it with like a cloth or tape it or something.
Yeah. I sleep in a completely different room that has like no electronics at all. And another side of the house for me.
Sleep
My wife and I
hygiene.
have blackout curtains, and we also sleep with eye masks, and it's still not dark enough.
Oh, that's great. Well, guys, thanks for connecting today. I'm going to stop the stream here, but it was a very nice banter at the end of it. So I'm really looking forward to see your art next week. I've already seen one of your pieces, kind of drunk. I'm actually really looking forward to review it next week. I will see if I can actually make publicity a bit sooner this time. I failed this week. But we'll see if we can get more people in. And it was nice to see you as well, Shmuel. I'm glad you connected. So, for those of you who are watching this later, I'll be here again, same time, same place next week at 2000 UTC. So, I wish you guys an excellent weekend and good 3D work for you. Oh, have a good one.
Have a good one, dude. Thank you for doing these.